Hi everyone, welcome to BookCravings. Let's finish this bookshelf tour. Yes, I'm just showing you guys a jigsaw, Jane Eyre jigsaw I bought in Bath. And now I'll show you guys some real nice classics, some nice translations to Portuguese of books I bet you all know well. First of all, this beautiful edition of Madame Bovary in Portuguese. Look at the end paper. Oh, I love this edition. It's really, really nice. And the translation is really good. So the next we have here a Jane Austen collection, the first book, this beautiful shade of pink. Look at the end papers, really, really nice. I love it. Green colored paper, and these editions are really, really inexpensive. And here we have Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice, and Persuasion. The next one, the blue one, has Mansfield Park, Northanger Abbey, and Emma, and it's really lovely. The same color, same end paper with the ex libris place to put your name, and they all have this ribbon marker, which I love. And last year I have Like Water for Chocolate, a paperback edition, a translation to Portuguese. This book is really nice. So I keep this little niche here with these editions, and I find them really lovely. Moving on, I have like a pop-up book of Alice in Wonderland, and this one is translated to Portuguese, but I know that there is an English version of the same book, and this one is really lovely. Look, yeah, I love this edition. And I also have Alice in Wonderland, an annotated version with the illustrations by John Tenniel. He is my favorite Alice illustrator, and this edition is really lovely, and it's full of interesting information about uh, Lewis Carroll's work. Next, I have a really nice edition of Maud Flanders. I read this book this year; it's awesome. Um, the Goonies, I bet you know, it's this famous film. Here I have Outlaws, and like this is a collection of short stories by Neil Gaiman and some other really famous writers, and I haven't read it yet, but the design of this book is really, really interesting with color illustrations and a dust jacket, even being a paperback. You have the Petit Prince, the Little Prince, and yeah. The only different thing about this one is that it has this, it's a hardcover, really nice hardcover, and with the original illustrations. You have a box of In Search of Lost Time by Marcel Proust. I can't wait to read this collection, but yeah, I don't really know when I would do this. My original plan was doing this in 2017, but I'm not sure. Here we have a single volume of The Chronicles of Narnia. I've read it just one time many years ago. It's not my favorite book. Maybe I'll give it another chance. Here, one of the favorite books and one of the best I read this year, The Red and the Black by Stendhal. Oh my god, this book is awesome. I strongly recommend it. And here I have Victory by Joseph Conrad. I haven't read it yet. I don't really know the translation of this title by Jhumpa Lahiri, but it's a very famous book. And here I have Alex Zorba by Nikos Kazantzakis, a Greek author. Some um, La Fontaine stories, a really nice edition. A Charles Perrault edition with some tales such as Little Red Riding Hood and other famous tales by Charles Perrault. And this edition is really, really nice. Look at the project inside with illustrations and by different artists. I really enjoyed this edition, and it was really inexpensive. And here we have like a textbook by Franco Moretti about the culture of the Romance. And here I have an anthology of magic realism. And finally, a book called Casa Grande Senzala, a Brazilian classic that tells some stories. It's not like a nonfiction. It tells about a place called Casa Grande Senzala. It's like a Brazilian colonial structure, a way of living where you have the master and the slaves, and how this place used to be organized and how life was at that time. Here I have a collection of a Brazilian author called João Guimarães Rosa, with some really nice editions. So this was a gift, and yeah, it's a really nice, a really cool edition, but I haven't read it yet, I must confess. Some Aesop fables, a really nice edition too, small, sturdy, and yeah, really inexpensive, a really interesting design. And a box with War and Peace, a translation to Portuguese. Unfortunately, it has white pages, but this box was expensive. Here I have Tales by Edgar Allan Poe, a really nice edition. And here Odyssey by Homer. This edition is absolutely beautiful. And here I have a beast, Les Miserables by Victor Hugo, a translation to Portuguese. A really nice edition, but heavy as hell. I don't know if I will use this edition when I read this book, but this one is really beautiful. Next, I have Don Quixote. I've talked about this book in my channel. I couldn't finish this one. It was so boring. Maybe it was a translation. I'm not sure. Maybe in the future I'll give it another chance. But my first impression wasn't good. Next, I have Decameron. I wish, and I really want to read this book this year. And this edition was really inexpensive, and it is absolutely beautiful, fully illustrated, and really, really nice edition. One of my favorites. And last in this shelf, I have Moby Dick, a translation to Portuguese. I read this book in the beginning of 2017. I didn't enjoy it. It was boring, and yeah, not my cup of tea. But look at this edition, a real gem, a really beautiful one. Unfortunately, white pages. And I have here a Brazilian edition of Ana Karenina by Tolstoy, and this one is really nice too, really elegant, simple, minimalistic, with nice colored paper, some like details in the chapters, the first page of the chapters. I really enjoyed this one, and it's one of my favorite books. So these are the classics I have in Portuguese, and I wanted to show you guys. Now, just a glimpse of my textbooks, because it will be like impossible to talk about all of them because I have hundreds of them. And yeah, I have and I have a book that I wrote there about comics, a textbook, more the technical thing, because I study media and communication. I have a book and a chapter published, and I have lots of books by story historians such as Eric Hobsbawm, many books by media authors, and lots of fiction in Portuguese, the majority of them as paperbacks, and other classics I really enjoy, but I don't have like a nice copy. And these are my books about books, books about the making of magazines, books about the making of book covers, and books about illustrated and children books, and books about history of books, about book design. This one is really famous by Richard Handel, and here I have a book by one of the most famous Brazilian collectors, and many books about book design, because it's uh, one of the areas I'm really interested. And yeah, as you may see, many of these books I have translations to English. This one, for example, The History of Reading by Albert Mangel. This one too, it's called Merchants of Culture by John B. Thompson. This one I really recommend. This one is from my professor. This one is The History of Reading. This one about the editorial industry in France. And this author, Roger Chartier, I have many books by him. He's a professor in the US. Another by Albert Mangel, the Library at Night, another by Roger Chartier, and now a book about the history of book in Brazil. This one is really, really nice. Another book about a Brazilian collector, and some articles, some papers here about how to build an independent book. This one also really interesting. Oh my god, so many books about books, books about the contemporary reader, about digital books and editorial design. Here a collection of essays about culture, media, and book. Here I have a book about novella and the beginning of the Renaissance. I haven't read it yet. It's a textbook, but the design is really interesting, you know, really, really nice. What else? By Umberto Eco. Vegetable memory or something like that, about the material of books and the importance of the materiality of books, of printed ones. Here I have another one by Umberto Eco. It's like an interview by Jean-Claude Corrier about the ending, the supposed ending of the printed book. By Robert Danton, the Case of Books is the title in English. And here the formation of the Brazilian reader. Here I research by Dana Boyd about teenagers using the internet and their social lives. What else? Many books about books and media, cyberculture. Here's the Michel Certeau, a really nice book, The Everyman of Everyday Life or something like that. Here, the history of Amazon, and here Spreadable Media by Henry Jenkins, translated. A book by Don Tapscott, another really famous author, Asa Briggs and Peter Burke, the history of the media. And yeah, many books about media and communication. Some of them are available in English. For example, this one, the Participatory Culture by Henry Church, and this one, The Culture of Connectivity by Jose van Dyke. Some books about research methods. This one I bought on the U of T, the University of Toronto. Is really nice. And a Brazilian dictionary of the Portuguese language. And I tried to give you just an overview of my textbook. So I hope you enjoyed this video. This is the last part of my bookshelf tour. See you guys in the next video.